There's a major theme in this Sunday's readings, and that is the building up of our church communities. In the first reading, we find Ezra, who is back with the people after a long exile, and they're back to their homeland, and they're back to their place of worship again. And he felt that the building up of the community was so important that he preached to them for 6+ hours. Now, I'm here to tell you, I'm not going to try to match or break his record. I truly am more of the mind of St. Paul, and that is to be short and to the point. In St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians, we are reminded that our church family is to remain as one body, even though there are many different talents making up the whole of St. John's community. And then St. Paul is quick to inform us that we are only called to assist our community according to the talents that God has given us. Nothing more. Then he emphasizes that while it is true that some of us are going to be a prophet or a business leader or a teacher or a parent, a healer, a designer, an altar server, a befriender, an usher, and the list goes on and on. He says what is much more important than that is that we recognize that one person's gifts are no greater or lesser than anyone else's gifts. And in today's gospel, then, Luke reminds us of how important it is that the guidelines that Jesus gave his disciples be handed down to all generations. He made it clear every Christian should know exactly what Jesus Christ was asking of them. In particular, he reminds us to live our life in such a way that during this year, we will make it a year acceptable to the Lord. Now, I don't need to remind you, but 2 weeks ago, you already made a commitment to making this a year of the Lord, right? You remember that time when these were handed out, and you were asked to share what time and talent you were willing to give to this parish to make it a year of the Lord. Now, if this happened to get taken home and shuffled in some papers and you lost it, I want you to know that I have a whole number of piles in the gathering space. And I'm encouraging you to pick one up if you haven't yet. We had about 128 people fill them out, and we need another 128 of you to let us know what you can do, even if it's praying, because many of us do spend time in prayer for our parish community. Fill it out, bring it back next week. Got to find out where I'm at. Anyway, I pray that each one of us will take the opportunity to not only recommit ourselves to giving of our time and talent and treasure to the church, but also to our families at home. Equally important to make it a year of the Lord for your families at home. So today, you and I are being asked to consider that third part of stewardship, and that is treasure. In my heart of hearts, you have to believe me. If I could, I would take every one of you back with me to the late 70s and early 80s in this parish. It was a very moving time for me and my family. I can tell you that it changed my life and our family's life. Learning about tithing, of stewardship, time and talent and treasure. You and I, we know that our parish ministry cannot be accomplished just through volunteers. We know how important it is to support our parish staff with the necessary funding for their supplies and just salaries. We know how important it is to pay for the heating, cleaning, and upkeep of our parish facilities. Today, I'm simply asking you to do what they spent several years coaching us to do back then. First, they reminded us that the church asks us to tithe 10% of our income. And then they reminded us that 5% of that was to go to the church. And the other 5% they asked us to give to the needs in our local community, our state, our nation, and the world around us. And it was very helpful for us to begin to think that way. And then the other thing they asked us to do, they said, take a look at your giving. And if it is not 5% to the church community, then what we're asking you to do is to increase it 1%, just 1% each year until you reach that 5% level. And what a difference that makes. Now, in the pews, and I'm not sure which end they're at, but there should be some of these cards. This past week, you received a packet of information from the parish concerning tithing of treasure. And this card, we're asking that you fill it out. There will be some silent time at the end of this homily in which you can fill it out. If you feel that it is important, and I know it became important in my family, that we went back home and we discussed it as a family, spent some time, do that. Take it home, talk about it with your family, what you can do, and then fill it out and bring it back next Sunday. But I really ask you to bring it back next Sunday. It is important for us that the parish staff have some knowledge of what will be coming. It's also important for us to look at this tithing and the increase because, as you will recall, a year ago, Father Carlson asked us not to increase our weekly giving because he wanted to focus on that stewardship drive and the commitment that we had made to that. And I can tell you that being able to not increase the giving for 1 year was very helpful for so many parishioners. And it was a real success for our stewardship campaign. Unfortunately, it left us $80,000 in deficit at the end of the year. And now with the church renovations completed, they have begun planning for 2020 when we will do the renovations at the school. And then after that, we will do pay off the mortgage at the parish house and also do the parking lot. But it is important for us this year to look at our weekly giving. And if you take a moment to go through the materials that were sent to you at home, and it talks about the many accomplishments that St. John's Parish has had in the past couple years. And it also tells you about the financial health of the parish at this time. So I pray that you will look over those materials. They do include our 2019 budget so that you can see how your tithing will be managed during the coming year. And this, like I say, this is our theme this year, and that is one in spirit, in God, and in mission together. And that's what that tithing has always been about in the church. That's what Saints Peter and Paul and Luke and so many other church fathers and mothers talked about in those early years, reminding us that our church communities will not grow spiritually if we are unwilling to share of our time and our talent and our treasure to help it grow. Our pastor and our staff and our lay leadership are really very thankful for your considering St. John's stewardship needs and the returning of your time and talent survey, first of all, and then now the stewardship of treasure. I would ask you then to use the next few minutes to pray in silence for our parish needs while filling out your commitment card and bringing it up at collection time, putting it in the collection basket. So, I gotta say, if you need time to discuss it with your family at home, please do so. But do please return it by next Sunday. And again, thank you to all of you who do make St. John's Community so very successful.